Hello and welcome everybody. I've been asked quite a lot of questions about like controls, what I use, how I set it up, so I would say let's make a video about that. Alright, let's start with the hardware side of things. Right here we got my computer. You can find the specs as on all of my videos in the video description down below. Nothing big to see here except for some cable management straight out of hell. Let's get to the first piece. I'm not using rudder pedals. To me, the price versus what I get out of it is just not worth it, so I completely got rid of that, never got one, and I'm using this one, which is just like 10-15 bucks foot switch strapped to a pillow, so it's a little bit more comfortable, a little bit raised. The switches do the following. This one is for my audio channel. This one is for the back view, so if I backstrafe and want to see if they're like asteroids or if one of my squad mates is there, I can always use this. And this switches between coupled and decoupled. So let's get one stage up to the real nice shit here, where we got a Constellation Alpha for the left side, a Constellation Alpha for the right side, a mini keyboard without numpad, and a mouse, as well as my 49-inch screen. We're gonna talk about all the setup right in a second about this, and one small detail my girlfriend gifted to me right here. So let's talk about the controls. So let's first talk about TrackIR. I really love the system for the immersiveness it brings into the game. It really pushes the game into another level, honestly. But on the other hand, I never use it in dogfighting. I know some people love to use it, other people have a button for it to turn it on and off. I just find it rather annoying in a dogfight because I only want my crosshair to move when I use my sticks. I don't want my head to alter my vision. It's just too much for me personally. So that's why I just don't use it when it comes down to dogfighting. But now let's talk about the actual controls. I'm also gonna upload these pictures for you guys so you can take a closer look into it. First off, let's talk about the axis. We got forward and backward on the y-axis, as well as left and right on the x-axis. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Up and down we're gonna solve with the z-axis. And I got my afterburner put onto the trigger button, as well as the space brake on this little hinge here. I did this because I noticed when I had my afterburner on this button, every time I have to get my thumb out of this groove to put it here, I kind of lose a little bit of traction here. And it makes me feel like I'm losing control, and I just don't like that, so I decided to put my afterburner here and my secondary weapon group here, since most of the time I'm just working with one weapon group anyway, so I can really deal with that little compromise. Other than that, let's talk about this little guy right here. We got it set up that if I push it to the left, that's the quantum travel. To the right, it takes care of our landing gear. Down, it's the VTOL, and up, it's the cruise mode. This joystick right here is only for FPS movement, so we can ignore that for now. This one we have set up that it increases or decreases the speed limiter, as well as it toggles on and off ESP and G-Save. Honestly, I'm not using this function at all, so yeah, one could also put like decoupled or anything on that if you don't want to go with the foot switch solution there. I'm toggling on the speed limiter with this button. If I push it in, then it's toggled on or off. Usually when I dogfight, I don't use the speed limiter at all. I like to use the precision of my arm and just work with that. If we hold this button to the left, we will exit the seat, and if we flick it to the right, it will get our ship flight ready. Next up, I would say we can take a look at this one here. This actually is the TrackIR button. Like I already said, I'm not using it too much, so we can forget about that. This little one here is just for cycling between our missile types if we have different missiles. The scroll wheel is for scan mode. If I push it in, it increases the scan or it decreases the scan right here. Yeah, right, I forgot to put in that if I hold this one down, it will actually be the actual scanning button, not the ping button, but the scan button. So I would say, yeah, right, we forgot about this one. This one is just a switch between lead and leg pip. I'm not using it too much, that's why I forgot about it, but that's basically it. And I would say let's move on to the right stick then. So as you saw, the left stick is mainly focused on controlling my ship and moving my ship. So the right button, of course, is more about our weapon systems, firing, aiming, everything like that. So basically I set it up that way that the y-axis is our pitch, the x-axis is the yaw, and we got the z-axis for our rolling. Alright, let's talk about the triggers. Obviously, this trigger is our first weapon group. The hinge down here is our shafts, as well as this little guy is our noise field. On the side here, we use this little guy for shaft increase and decrease, really useful. Next up, we got our missiles right on this red one. So this is acquire lock as well as shooting our missiles. The next super important thing would be this little guy, which I set up for if I push to the left, it targets all the attackers, to the top, the friendlies, to the right, the hostiles, and down below is everything under the reticle. Some people also have like cycle all. I find that rather disturbing and never had a problem with this setup. One thing I forgot to put in, if I push this button in, it actually puts the number on the target, which would be important for this one, because this one switches between target 1, 2, 3 or deletes all the targets. I think this button right now doesn't have a function with me, just like this wheel. I used to have a set up for mining, but since I never did it since like half a year, I forgot about that. So that's it. This small one is for our shield control. So if I put it to the front, it's the front shields, the back shields, left and right. And if I push in, then it resets everything. So that was already my setup when it comes to the controls. I'm going to talk about curves next. So let's jump there. So let's talk about the curves. We find them if we go to options down here and controls up above here. The important part is that you select the right device down here, which would be joystick HOTAS 2 for us, but could be different for you. Next setting would be joystick sensitivity curves and then flight and flight movement. And the first 6 points here are those which really are of interest for us. The first 3 are our right stick and the next 3 are our left stick. I got all the first 3 ones set to 1.3 and on the left side to 3.0. It's pretty much the same for both, it just gives a little bit more precision for me. One would be like the standard, everything below would be less sensitive, everything above is just a little bit more sensitive. I'm flying this setup now for about half a year. Ever since I set it up, I never changed it anymore, and I'm really happy with it. That's also super good advice I can give everybody who's starting out with dogfighting. If you first go into this, take your time, go into free flight, check your settings until you find a position which feels good and natural for you. And after that, don't ever touch it again. Just don't. Why? Because the most important thing when it comes to aiming and dogfighting is your own muscle memory. So how well your arm is used to the controller and how the game behaves. And the biggest drawback or biggest problem you can cause yourself is if you would change like every hour the settings here, because your body just doesn't have anything to grip on or learn from. So once you got settings down for yourself, just don't touch it anymore. let your body work, work on yourself, try focusing on aiming and getting better with it. That's the most important thing you can do here. So best advice I can give right there. Other than this settings, we also got the inversion settings here. Sometimes if there's a new patch, I have to alter this a bit, because suddenly if I push forward, my ship goes backward, and then that's the place where you want to go. Alright, we got one more clip for you, just a small thing. Maybe it's just me being a little bit nerdy, but enjoy it. Do you know those dogfights where your palms get really sweaty and even you paid an shitload amount of money on these things, they're still made out of plastic, and all of a sudden your hand just starts sliding? Wait no more, I got a good tip for that. Those are old American football receiver gloves actually. I cut off the fingers here and had to hand sew them together so they don't rip off here. But the great thing about those are this material down here is actually made to have super good grip for plastics and the football itself. So those actually help improve your stickiness on the grip quite well, as I found out. The great thing is they have this little holes, so your hand still can breathe a little, and if they ever feel like getting dull, like mine do, there's some stuff called glove glue, which you can just spray on it, and then you wait a second, and then they should be grippy again. So yeah, it can help. I just personally really like it. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and could learn something. If so, I really appreciate a thumbs up. If you have further questions or suggestions for future videos, just let me know in the comments down below. And I'm definitely planning on doing more basic dogfighting guides as well. So if you don't want to miss out on one of those, just ring the bell and give me a subscribe. I really appreciate it. Have a good one and see you in the verse. Goodbye.